A black man in his 40s, Daniel, is recognized in his neighborhood for his spirit of mutual assistance and his kindness. Tall and sturdy, with calloused hands and a warm smile, Daniel is the kind of man the neighbors rely on. Whether it's helping to clear a driveway in winter or repairing an old fence, he's always there, ready to lend a hand. His face, marked by years of manual labor, reflects a serenity that inspires confidence. His house, modest but well-maintained, is located in a quiet neighborhood where everyone knows each other. One day, on his way home from work, he helps a distressed woman change the tire of her car on a lonely road. It was a late afternoon like any other. The sun was beginning to set, tinting the sky with a golden glow. Daniel was returning home after a long day spent on a construction site. Tired but satisfied, he took a secondary road, preferring to avoid the usual traffic. It was there that he saw a car stopped on the side of the road. The hood slightly open, a woman standing next to it, visibly lost. Without hesitation, Daniel slowed down and parked behind her. As he approached, he noticed the nervousness in her demeanor. She was young, maybe in her 30s, with messy brown hair and a troubled look. She wore a smart office dress, now wrinkled and stained with dust. "Need help?" he asked softly. The woman nodded quickly, her face tense. "Yes, the tire. It's flat. I don't know how to change it." Her voice shook slightly, as if something else was worrying her. Daniel noticed that she was casting furtive glances around her, as if afraid of being observed. The woman, visibly stressed, quickly thanks him and leaves without saying much. Daniel immediately got to work, kneeling on the gravel to inspect the flat tire. He retrieved the tools from the trunk of the car and began unscrewing the bolts with the ease of a man accustomed to this type of task. The entire time, the woman remained silent, standing at a distance, her phone clutched in her hand, her eyes constantly moving, scanning the road behind her. "It'll only take a few minutes," Daniel said to break the ice, hoping to reassure her. But she only responded with a forced, almost absent smile. Once the tire was changed, the woman quickly walked to the door of her car. "Thank you very much," she said hurriedly, avoiding Daniel's gaze. "I have to go." She got into the car, started the engine without even waiting for a response, and sped away, gravel flying beneath her wheels. Daniel found himself standing on the side of the road, his hands still covered in grease, watching the car disappear into the horizon. Something about this interaction perplexed him. It wasn't the first time he had helped someone, but this woman seemed different. He briefly wondered if she was running from something or someone, but pushing those thoughts from his mind, he told himself that she must just be in a hurry. A few days later, an unknown black SUV appears in front of Daniel's house. It seemed like an ordinary day. Daniel was taking out his trash in the early evening when he first noticed the vehicle. A large black SUV, elegant but imposing, parked right in front of his house. Its tinted windows reflected the twilight sky, preventing anyone from seeing inside. Daniel frowned but finally shrugged, thinking it must be the car of someone visiting one of his neighbors. His neighborhood, although quiet, sometimes experienced unexpected visitors. At first, he doesn't pay too much attention, thinking it might be a coincidence. The next day, Daniel came home from work, tired and ready to relax. As he parked his vehicle in the driveway, he noticed the SUV again, parked in the same location. He looked at it briefly as he got out of his car, but didn't worry too much. Probably a guest, he told himself, although something about the stillness of the vehicle and the opaqueness of its windows gave him a strange feeling of discomfort. He convinced himself that it was a figment of his imagination and headed towards the door of his house, trying to forget this strange detail. But the SUV comes back every evening, parked without moving, with tinted windows that prevent you from seeing inside. The days passed, and every evening, Daniel noticed the same thing. This SUV, always in the same place, always silent, almost as if it were part of the decor. However, he had never seen anyone enter or exit the vehicle. Not a movement, not a glimmer of activity inside. What began as simple curiosity slowly became a source of inner turmoil. Every time he walked past it, he felt a cold, invisible presence staring at him. One evening, while returning home late from work, he found himself slowing down as he approached the SUV. Darkness had already invaded the street, and the light from the street lamps cast long shadows on the sidewalk. Daniel stopped in front of the car for a moment, trying to peer through the blackness of the tinted windows, but there was nothing to see. Only his own reflection in the smooth glass. A shiver ran down his spine, and he quickened his pace to return home, carefully locking the door behind him. Little by little, the atmosphere becomes heavy, as if Daniel was being spied on. Each evening, the feeling of being watched intensified. In his own home, where he always felt safe, Daniel began to feel vulnerable. When he looked out the window, he saw the SUV, silent and still, like a patient predator. He often wondered if there was someone inside, someone watching him without him knowing. Just thinking about it made him nervous. Soon he could no longer ignore the strangeness of the situation. Why did this SUV sit there every night, never moving? Who owned it, and why did it seem to follow a specific pattern? He told a neighbor about it, but he didn't seem to notice, adding even more to the mystery. Daniel now felt the weight of every glance, even when he went out to get his mail or water his garden. He started taking detours to avoid passing near the car. Sometimes, at night, he would wake with a start, overcome with sudden anxiety, getting up to check if the SUV was still there. And he was. Always there, true to its place, like a constant reminder of a silent presence. As he continued to ignore the riddle of the SUV, a worrying thought crept into his mind. Did all of this have anything to do with this woman he had helped? This simple act of kindness, which had seemed so natural to him at the time, now took a much darker turn. Daniel remembered every detail of their meeting. He saw the woman again, her face contorted with stress, her hands trembling as she changed the tire, as if she were afraid of something or someone. Why hadn't she wanted to linger, to explain her situation? Why had she just given him an absent-minded thank you before leaving so quickly? He tried to shake the thought away, but the coincidences were becoming too numerous to ignore. As the days passed, the black SUV appeared regularly in his rearview mirror. When he took the road to go to work, to go shopping, or even for a simple walk, he almost always felt this familiar presence, this vehicle following him at a distance. At first, he tried to convince himself that it was just a coincidence, that other cars were traveling on the same roads as him. But he couldn't escape this feeling of déjà vu, this strange impression that this SUV was moving at the same time as him, that it had been programmed to follow his movements. Things take a strange turn when Daniel notices that he is being followed by the SUV during his trips. That morning, as he walked to his office, he was almost certain the black SUV was behind him. Every turn, every red light, the vehicle seemed to stay a few cars away, as if waiting for Daniel to make a move to follow it. The idea made him nervous, a ball of tension settling in his stomach. Daniel began checking his mirrors with growing anxiety, his heart beating faster each time he saw that SUV, so familiar and yet so menacing. He begins to wonder, who is this woman he helped? His thoughts swirled in his head. Who was she really? Was she just an ordinary citizen, or was she involved in something more dangerous? Daniel remembered one detail that struck him. He had never noticed tire tracks or other marks around where she had stopped her car. This intrigued him. Why was she there, on this isolated road, with a broken tire? Had she been chased? Did she need to flee quickly? Did he witness something bigger that day, without realizing it? This question haunted him. Perhaps his kindness, his desire to help someone, had led him into a spiral the extent of which he did not yet understand. Daniel began to think about the possibility that he had witnessed a crime or dangerous situation and was now unwillingly involved. Tension was building within him, fueled by the uncertainty of what was really happening. That night, Daniel went to bed unable to sleep. The shadows of the trees in his garden took on strange shapes, and every noise outside made him jump. He got up and decided to check out the living room window, hoping not to see the SUV parked right in front of his house. To his great fear, the vehicle was there, motionless, like a shadow watching over him. This realization plunged him into a mixture of anxiety and determination. He had to act, understand what was going on around him. Perhaps it was time to go meet this woman, to ask her the questions that tormented him. After all, he had nothing to lose, but everything to gain by discovering the truth. He then decided to take matters into his own hands. The following night, after letting the day slowly fade, Daniel armed himself with a flashlight and a notebook in which he wrote down all the details he remembered about this unexpected encounter. His heart beat harder the more he prepared himself. Every minute that passed seemed to make the atmosphere around him heavier, as if the walls of his home were whispering silent warnings. He was determined not to let fear dictate his life. He planned to go to the place where he had helped the woman. It had been a few days since he had been there, and he felt nervous about returning to the place that had witnessed their brief and disturbing interaction. Daniel chose a route that he would take on foot, thus avoiding attracting the attention of the SUV. As he walked, he reviewed the elements that had troubled him. What had really happened that day? Had the woman left behind her traces, clues that only he could find? Perhaps he would find clues, answers there. The route he took was lined with trees which, under the moonlight, took on disturbing silhouettes. At every sound he jumped, expecting something sinister to emerge from the darkness. But he couldn't back down now. He needed to know. Perhaps one of the neighbors or even a passerby had noticed something unusual that day. Daniel remembered the faces he had encountered on his way to work. An elderly neighbor who often stood on his porch reading the newspaper, a mother with her child playing in the nearby park. They had all been able to see this woman, or at least her vehicle. His mind was spinning, trying to connect the threads of these memories. The fear was there, but it was accompanied by a flame of hope that lit within him. Maybe, just maybe, he could solve this mystery. Daniel felt a rush of adrenaline, determined to understand the mystery surrounding him and to chase away the fear that had taken root in his daily life. Every step he took gave him a new dose of courage. He visualized the things he might say if he met a neighbor. "Have you seen that woman?" Or, "What do you know about this black SUV?" He imagined himself collecting testimonies, stories that could help him unravel this puzzle. When he finally arrived at the place where he had helped the woman, he turned off his flashlight and looked around. The road was quiet, almost too quiet. The stars shone above him, but the wind, which blew gently, carried with it a palpable tension. Daniel scanned the ground, looking for traces left by the car, a forgotten object or even a footprint that could shed light on what had happened. Every movement seemed to resonate in the air, amplifying his anxiety. He decided to sit on the side of the road for a while, thinking about the woman. Who was she really? Why did she seem so tense? His thoughts carried him away in a whirlwind of hypotheses. Was she in danger? Does she have reason to worry? He felt responsible, as if he had opened a door he should never have gone through. Daniel knew he had to understand, not only for himself, but for this woman whose face haunted him. As he watched the shadows in the night, a light breeze brushed his face. He closed his eyes for a moment, trying to catch a clue, an intuition. He got up, determined. He hadn't come here to give up. If he had to confront this mystery, he would do so with all the tools at his disposal, his intelligence, his instincts, and the strength of his heart. An idea sprouted in his mind. He could go back home, do some research on missing people in the area, on recent incidents. This might give him an idea of what he had actually encountered. With new determination, he set out, his heart pounding, ready to delve into this mystery that threatened to consume him, but which, he hoped, might also reveal hidden truths. The next day, the black SUV reappeared at Daniel's house, parked as usual in front of his house. This time, however, something seemed different. A palpable tension hung in the air, and Daniel's heart was racing. He looked at the vehicle with apprehension, his mind already racing with catastrophic scenarios. Why were these men coming back? Something told him this wouldn't be trivial. Suddenly, the SUV door slowly opened, revealing 4 men in crisp black suits, each wearing dark sunglasses. They emerged from the vehicle with a presence that inspired both respect and fear. Daniel felt small in front of them, a ball of nervousness forming in his stomach. These men did not look like those he encountered in his neighborhood. Their appearance was both intimidating and fascinating. He froze, paralyzed by fear. What did they want? His thoughts were swirling. Did these men have a connection to the woman he helped? Was he in danger? Daniel remembered his thoughts from the previous days, when he had imagined that this meeting was not the result of chance. But this time, fear gave way to curiosity mixed with anxiety. The men advanced towards him, their approach assured and measured. Daniel forced himself to breathe deeply, trying to control the panic that threatened to overwhelm him. One of the men, taller than the others, took a step forward. His expression was serious, but not threatening. He opened his mouth and said in a calm voice, "Daniel, don't be afraid. We come on behalf of the family of the woman you helped. We would like to speak to you." At the mention of the woman, the name of the one he had rescued came back to his mind. What was really happening? Daniel felt torn between the desire to flee and the desire to understand. Who is this woman? Why was his family sending men in suits to meet him? "You acted with great courage and kindness that did not go unnoticed," the man continued. "This woman's father is a very influential man in the country, a philanthropist. He has heard about your help and wants to thank you personally." Daniel remained frozen, even more perplexed. Were they there to reward him? It seemed unreal. The fear gradually faded, replaced by a glimmer of hope. Maybe this meeting could change his life. "We would like to invite you to a meeting to discuss your reward," the man added. "We guarantee you have nothing to worry about. You simply did what was right." Daniel felt hesitant. Part of him wanted to accept, curious about what this family could offer, while another part remained wary. He wondered if this generosity was sincere, or if there was a hidden condition. "Very well," he finally replied, his voice trembling but resolute. "I'm ready to listen." The men exchanged looks, visibly relieved by his response. One of them came over and handed him a business card. "Here is our address. We will be waiting for you tomorrow at 6 p.m. With that, they turned around and walked back to the SUV. Daniel watched them walk away, still in shock from what had just happened. His thoughts were swirling, and excitement mixed with anxiety filled him at the idea of what was going to happen. As he returned home, Daniel wondered what the future held for him. Was he about to discover a world he had never imagined, or was he risking getting himself into a situation more complex than he thought? A new determination awoke within him. He wanted to know the truth, not only about the woman he had rescued, but also about the consequences of his actions. The next day, at exactly 6 p.m., Daniel set out for the address indicated on the business card. He had spent the day turning over and over recent events in his head, torn between excitement and anxiety. The journey, which took him to the richest district in the country, seemed surreal to him. As Daniel walked down the familiar streets of his neighborhood, he couldn't help but feel a stark contrast. The modest homes where he grew up gave way to luxurious villas, adorned with impeccably manicured gardens and sports cars parked in front of wrought iron gates. Every street corner seemed to tell a story of wealth and privilege, a world in which he had never really evolved. As he neared his destination, his heart was racing. What would he do once he arrived? Would he really be received as a hero, or was this a trap? Daniel shook his head, chasing away his dark thoughts. He had to stay focused. This meeting was perhaps the opportunity he was waiting for, a chance to change his life and perhaps that of his community. Finally, arriving in front of the imposing residence, he observed with admiration the elegant architecture, the cut stone walls, and the large windows which shone under the last rays of the sun. A feeling of humility invaded him. How could he have attracted the attention of such an influential family? Daniel hesitated for a moment in front of the solid wooden door, his hands slightly sweaty. He took a deep breath, trying to gather his courage, then rang the doorbell. It opened almost instantly, revealing a butler in an impeccable suit. "Good day, sir. You are expected," he said in a polite but firm voice. "Please follow me." Daniel entered, amazed by the spacious hall decorated with modern paintings and fascinating sculptures. The walls were adorned with bright colors, contrasting with the white marble of the floor. He felt like an intruder in this world that didn't belong to him. The butler led him through wood-paneled hallways and lavishly decorated rooms to a large dining room where several people were already gathered. In the center of the room stood a beautifully set table, adorned with sparkling candlesticks. At the sight of him, the guests turned, and Daniel felt all eyes on him. Among them was the woman he had helped, smiling and seemingly at ease in this environment. She approached him, her face lit up by a warm smile. "Daniel, I'm so happy you came," she said with a sincerity that reassured him a little. "I'm sorry for the situation I put you in. You deserve much better." Her words resonated within him, and he felt a little more at home, even if he was still plagued by doubt. The other guests, all dressed in elegant clothes, gave him welcoming smiles. But Daniel knew he couldn't ignore the fact that he was an ordinary man, surrounded by people who looked like they came straight out of a fashion magazine. The woman introduced him to her father, an imposing man with a charismatic presence and a firm handshake. The man greeted him warmly. "Daniel, I would like to thank you personally for your kindness. You did something incredible for my daughter, and it has not been forgotten. We want to reward you for your altruism." At these words, Daniel felt a wave of heat invade him. He had always acted on instinct, never expecting reward. But now, faced with this recognition, he realized how much of an impact his actions had had. The evening continued in an atmosphere of conviviality and respect. Conversations continued around the table, and Daniel began to relax. He shared stories about his neighborhood and his experiences, captivating his audience. As he spoke, he realized that, despite their differences, there was a bond being forged, a mutual understanding that went beyond appearances. As he settled into this new reality, a thought crossed his mind. Maybe tonight would mark the start of a new chapter in his life, one where he could make a difference, not only for himself, but also for those around him. As the evening wore on, the billionaire, a savvy businessman with silver hair and an imposing appearance, rose from his chair with determination visible in his eyes. He fell silent in the room, and all the guests turned their attention to him. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said in a deep, confident voice, "I think it is time to act. We've all heard about Daniel, his selflessness, and his willingness to help others without expecting anything in return." He turned to Daniel, who was looking at him with surprise and curiosity. "Daniel, I realize that there are people like you, people whose hearts are immeasurably generous. We are privileged to be able to make a difference in the lives of those who deserve a chance. My daughter and I decided to offer you this chance." The billionaire's words rang through Daniel's mind like an echo of possibilities. He didn't know what to say. His heart was racing as anxiety and excitement mixed together. "Dad," the billionaire's daughter intervened, visibly moved. "Daniel, you deserve so much more than what life has given you so far. You've helped strangers without hesitation, and now we want to help you make your dreams come true." She paused, letting her words sink into the atmosphere of the room. Daniel, a little stunned, listened attentively. The goodwill he had felt since his arrival now took on a more concrete dimension. "We would like to finance your project, whatever it may be," the young woman continued. "Whether it's a business, studies, or even a mutual aid program in your community, we want to support you." At these words, Daniel felt a flood of emotions. A project? He, who had always dreamed of doing something significant for his neighborhood, but had never had the means to make it happen. He was hesitant, afraid of letting a priceless opportunity slip away. I don't know what to say," he stammered, visibly moved. "I never thought that." "No need to say anything right away," the billionaire cut in with a kind smile. "Take time to think. What we offer you is an opportunity, not an obligation. We believe in you, and we know you can accomplish great things." Daniel looked around the room, scanning the kind faces around him. Each of them seemed to believe in himself, in his potential. He then realized that this luck did not come only from money, but from shared trust, from a desire for change. I would like to create a mechanical and vehicle manufacturing factory. I want to be the founder of a bigger factory building trucks, cars, and agricultural machinery. I want to impact my country and the whole world with this project," he declared with growing passion. His words echoed in the room, and a wave of positive energy seemed to spread through it. A murmur of approval ran through the room as those present began to realize the magnitude of his ambition. The billionaire's daughter, visibly impressed, nodded enthusiastically, her eyes shining with enthusiasm. "It's an extraordinary idea," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with admiration. "A factory like this could not only create jobs, but also strengthen the local economy. Imagine the possibility of training young people in technical professions, of offering them a better future." Daniel felt a surge of energy at the mention of this vision. The idea of uplifting his community, giving back, and uplifting others motivated him to the depths of his being. "Exactly," he replied, his words speeding up with excitement. "There are so many young people in my neighborhood who don't have access to learning opportunities. I want to teach them not only mechanical skills but also teamwork, project management, and innovation. I dream of a place where they can not only work but also grow and flourish." The other guests listened with increasing attention, captivated by Daniel's passion. The idea of building a company that would not only produce vehicles but also transform lives resonated deeply with them. In addition, he added, "I would like our factory to be a model of sustainability. We could use eco-friendly materials and integrate innovative technologies that reduce our carbon footprint. This would show our country and the world that progress can go hand in hand with environmental protection." The billionaire's daughter nodded, more and more convinced by Daniel's commitment. "I can already imagine the media coverage around this project. This could attract investors, not only for the construction of the factory, but also for the products we will produce. Your vision could truly become a symbol of hope and change." Daniel felt transported by this dynamic, and the idea that his dream could inspire others to fight for their own future galvanized him. I also want to partner with local schools and universities to develop internship programs. This would give students hands-on experience, while also making them aware of career opportunities in the automotive and agricultural industries. We could even organize innovation competitions to encourage entrepreneurship among young people." With each word spoken, Daniel saw himself a little more as the leader he aspired to become. The excited assembly began to discuss the next steps to bring this vision to life. "I firmly believe that we have the opportunity to not only transform our community, but also lay the foundation for a larger movement. A movement that could redefine the way businesses interact with their environment and with people." The faces in the room glowed with excitement as everyone began to visualize the incredible potential of this project. "Together, we can make your dream come true," said the billionaire's daughter, her enthusiasm palpable. "This is the start of a journey that could change lives, and I'm here to help you every step of the way." Daniel felt a surge of gratitude and hope. With such determined allies at his side, he knew this wasn't just a dream, it was a concrete possibility. The future he had imagined for himself and his community was within reach, and he was ready to fully commit to this bold adventure. The project begins a few weeks later, and the excitement is palpable. Daniel wakes up every morning with renewed determination, ready to make his dream a reality. Meetings with the billionaire's daughter and her father became frequent, each bringing new ideas and valuable resources. Together, they draw the outline of what will soon be an emblematic factory, a symbol of progress and hope for their community. The location for the factory has already been chosen, a vacant lot in the heart of the neighborhood that Daniel knows so well. It is a strategic location, easily accessible for future employees and close to the schools with which they wish to establish partnerships. The billionaire's daughter, eager to contribute, mobilized architects and urban planners to design plans for the factory. Daniel is dazzled by their professionalism and their ability to transform abstract ideas into concrete designs. In the weeks that followed, the excitement spread throughout the neighborhood. Daniel begins organizing community meetings to share his vision and involve residents in the project. People come in large numbers, intrigued by what could transform their daily lives. Daniel speaks passionately about the factory, the impact it will have on the local economy, and the opportunity it will offer young people to train and work. "We're going to create jobs," he said, looking at the enthusiastic faces in front of him. "We will show everyone that our community has potential and that we can all rise together." The feedback is positive, and many young people in the neighborhood are interested in the training opportunities. Daniel works to forge links with educational establishments to develop programs adapted to the needs of the factory, ensuring that every young person can benefit from this initiative. At the same time, construction work begins on the site. The bulldozers and cranes begin to move, and the noise of the machines resonates like a promising melody to Daniel. He spends hours on the job site, witnessing progress, making sure every detail conforms to his vision. It's hard work, but it's worth every drop of sweat when Daniel sees the structure starting to take shape. One day, while supervising a key stage of construction, he receives an unexpected call from the billionaire's daughter. "Daniel, I have an idea," she exclaims enthusiastically. "What if we organized an event to celebrate the opening of the factory? This could attract media attention and give our project incredible momentum." The idea of an event to bring the community together around this new adventure excites Daniel. They begin planning a grand opening party, inviting not only local residents, but also investors, journalists, and local political figures. "This could be a great opportunity to show our determination and unity," says Daniel. "We are going to let everyone know that this project is not only important to us, but is also a model for other communities." The weeks pass, and as the opening of the factory draws closer, Daniel feels a surge of energy. He realizes that this project goes well beyond the simple creation of a factory. It is a real movement, an opportunity to restore hope and pride to those who have long been left behind. Finally, the long-awaited day arrives. The inauguration of the factory was a resounding success. Colorful banners flutter in the wind, and a festive atmosphere invades the neighborhood. Laughter and applause resonate, creating a melody of hope and renewal. The crowd is jubilant. The young people are smiling while taking part in training activities, and Daniel, surrounded by his supporters, feels more determined than ever to make this project a success. The factory doors open wide, and guests are welcomed by an exhibition highlighting the different stages of the project and the local craftsmen who will participate in the manufacture of the vehicles. Machine demonstrations, practical workshops, and information stands allow everyone to discover the opportunities that present themselves. The young people, with radiant smiles, experiment with tools and participate in simulations, thus discovering their potential. Daniel, as founder, speaks to the crowd. His heart races as he looks at the beaming faces around him. "Today," he said with a voice full of emotion, "we are not only celebrating the opening of this factory, but also the future we are building together. Every vehicle that leaves these walls will represent the talent and hard work of our community." Applause erupts, and a feeling of unity fills the air. Daniel talks about the many challenges he had to overcome to get here, the importance of believing in your dreams, and the power of solidarity. He thanks the billionaire's daughter and her father for their unwavering support, but he also addresses all members of the community, reminding them that it is thanks to their collective commitment that this project saw the light of day. As he finishes his speech, a shower of confetti falls on the audience, adding to the ambient euphoria. Songs and dances emerge, and the party takes a joyful turn with musical performances, local artists, and food stalls. Families gather, children run around laughing, and an atmosphere of camaraderie develops. Daniel takes a moment to observe all this. He knows this is just the beginning of a new era for his community and for himself. This factory represents not just a workplace, but a symbol of rebirth and hope. He already imagines the days to come, young people trained, emerging talents, and a real dynamic of change taking place. As he descends the stairs leading to the factory, he is approached by local youth who express their gratitude and enthusiasm. Their eyes shine with determination, and Daniel realizes that he has managed to ignite a spark of ambition in their hearts. "Thank you, Daniel," said one of them. "It's thanks to you that we now have a chance to succeed. I want to be a mechanic and learn everything I can here." Simple words, but full of meaning, resonate in Daniel's mind. He realizes that he has not only changed his own life, but also those of these young people, giving them an opportunity they might never have had. As the celebration continues, Daniel vows to stay engaged and listen to the needs of his community. He knows that the road will be strewn with pitfalls, but surrounded by all these people, he feels ready to take on any challenge. As the sun begins to set, bathing the factory in golden light, Daniel looks up to the sky and murmurs a prayer of gratitude. He knows that, thanks to his dream come true, a new generation now has the opportunity to shine. Daniel's story is just the beginning. With determination and passion, he prepares to continue writing an even greater chapter in their collective history, one filled with hope, possibilities, and realized dreams.